And welcome to Under the Visor, the weekly Formula One podcast where one of us knows exactly what he's talking about.
And the other one is very much learning. Sorry, I had a 5-second penalty.
This is the theme of Monaco this year. I'm Karl.
And I'm Tom.
And this week we're diving into the Monaco Grand Prix weekend.
And somehow Monaco, a race famous for no overtaking, gave us chaos, retirements, red flags, pit lane speeding, post-race investigations, and a podium that basically needed a courtroom and a calculator.
Yeah, it was a bit of an eventful one, so strap in, this may be a long one.
Any news?
There is a couple of bits of news, yes. We'll start with Charles Leclerc, because ahead of his home Grand Prix, he has confirmed his new Ferrari deal. But he has also said that there were other offers from rival teams.
Which is a bit spicy because Ferrari fans will hear that and immediately start doing emotional damage calculations.
Yeah, but Leclerc did say that Ferrari is and was always his choice. He talked about loving the team, considering them a family, believing in the project, and believing that Fred Vasseur is the right person to bring Ferrari back to the top.
Yeah, this is it's a loyal thing, really, to commit that long.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Also, very brave because believing in Ferrari is basically like investing emotionally in a printer. You know it can work beautifully, but at some point it will flash a random warning light and ruin your day.
Yeah, it's probably the most accurate Ferrari analogy we've had so far. Talking about contract extensions, we've also had a contract extension for Las Vegas to stay on the F1 calendar through to 2037, so a 10-year extension.
That is a long time to commit as well.
It is, yeah, but it shows how important that race has become commercially. F1 clearly sees it as one of its major global showcase events.
Yeah, which makes sense, really. It's lights, casinos, celebrities, chaos, and cars doing 200 miles an hour down the strip.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle, if you ask me.
Very understated. Just a quiet little race through one of the most ridiculous places on Earth.
Yeah. But ahead of Monaco, there's been confirmation that active aero will not be used.
Because Monaco doesn't really have any straights, it's a bit dangerous and all of that, so...
Pretty much. So active aero needs proper zones where it can be deployed. Monaco just doesn't really have that kind of straight line section that it needs.
Yeah, so basically F1 looked at Monaco and went, where would we even put this?
Exactly. And then we've had some rule tweaks for 2027. So regulation tweaks confirmed as well by the F1 Commission.
Because apparently F1 can't get through one set of rules without already editing the next one.
Yeah. Well, it's basically how this sport works at this point. There's been technical and sporting adjustments is what's been reported. And they've been agreed as they prepare to move to the next phase of the regs.
So basically, teams and Karl are trying to understand the 26 regulations, and we're already panicking about 2027.
Yeah, correct. Talking about panicking, the Madrid circuit, Madring, your favourite one on F1 25 or 26.
Hate it.
It's reportedly hit legal issues.
Because no new street circuit is complete without a legal battle?
Apparently so.
Right.
The challenges are the original construction company have been sacked due to contract breaches and lying about deadlines and things like that. And the new contractors have come in and have used the original plans for the track because that's what's been agreed with the FIA. And the original construction company have gone, hold on, you're using our proprietary plans and you can't do that. So they're trying to sue them.
So even before a car's driven around it, there's already drama?
Yeah, it's very Formula One, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So going into this weekend, one of the big storylines is, and we're going to probably try to repeat it too many times, but the biggest storyline, McLaren's 1000th Grand Prix.
Yeah, a massive milestone for them.
Huge one. It's one of the most iconic teams in F1 history, celebrating race number 100 at Monaco of all places, which is where it started for them.
Or 1000.
Or that.
Well, so naturally, the weekend said, congratulations, McLaren. Here's some reliability issues.
Yeah, we'll get on to that, shall we?
Yes. So FP1.
Yeah, Friday, FP1, Ferrari immediately looked strong.
Yeah, which at Monaco is so important because if you're quick early and you're building confidence, and if you're not quick early, you're basically just waiting to brush the walls and cry.
Yeah, so Leclerc topped the session with a 1:13.9, ahead of Hamilton in second and Verstappen in third.
Yes, Ferrari looked quick with a 1-2 in FP1 straight away then.
Exactly. Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, then Verstappen, Antonelli and Russell were from the two Mercedes pair completing the top five.
Yeah, so for Leclerc, that must have felt sort of perfect. Home race, new contract, and Ferrari looking quick.
Yeah, although the session was disrupted, Hadjar crashed at the swimming pool chicane, which brought out red flags.
That's one of the worst places that can go wrong.
Absolutely. Fast, tight, and if the car steps out, you don't really have much time to save it there.
So, headline from FP1, Ferrari quick, Leclerc fastest, Hamilton right there. Verstappen close enough to be annoying, and Monaco already biting.
Exactly. What about FP2?
Well, FP2 carried on with the Ferrari theme, but this time it was Hamilton on top.
Okay, but still a Ferrari 1-2 again.
Yeah, Hamilton set a 1:13.026 on soft tyres, while Leclerc was second, Verstappen third, Russell fourth, and then Antonelli not shining at the moment, down in fifth.
Okay. It does sound like Ferrari were properly in the fight, though.
They were. Hamilton looked really comfortable, although he had a couple of slides through the swimming pool section that probably raised Ferrari's heart rates a little bit.
The biggest story, though, Lando.
Exactly. Norris stops after less than 15 minutes into FP2, as McLaren appeared to lose power after exiting the tunnel, which brought out the virtual safety car.
It's not ideal.
No, especially at Monaco, where missing track time really hurts, and Norris lost a massive chunk of that session.
So McLaren came into their 1000th Grand Prix hoping for a celebration victory, and Friday's already got warning lights flashing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, what about quali?
Then came quali, and this was a proper Monaco qualifying session drama.
A lot of people say qualifying is the real race for Monaco, don't they?
Pretty much. Monaco qualifying is so important because overtaking nearly impossible, and it was Kimi Antonelli who took pole.
Wow, big moment.
Huge. He took pole with a 1:12.051, just 0.043, 400ths of a second. Hundredths of a second ahead of Verstappen.
Proud of you.
Thank you. Absolutely tiny. Hamilton was third for Ferrari, Leclerc fourth after dominating the sessions, Hadjar fifth, which is very good after he had his little incident. Russell sixth. Really disappointing for Russell. He really needs to pick up his game if he's, he needs to stop all the drama and temper tantrums and just concentrate on driving. And then Piastri and Norris, 7th and 8th, Gasly in 9th, and your favourite driver?
Lawson,
10th.
Brilliant. So, Ferrari looking strongest in practice then, but Mercedes and, more importantly, Kimi grabbing it when it mattered.
Exactly, and Q3 was wild. Antonelli was quick early, then Leclerc and Verstappen both had moments where they looked like they might be able to take it. Leclerc even briefly went fastest, but then Verstappen grabbed provisional pole, Hamilton was in the mix, and then finally Antonelli put an absolutely amazing lap together. It was one of those magic laps, and I think he even called it a magic lap, where he just got everything hooked up and just flew around and, smashed it to pole.
Kind of lap you need at Monaco then.
Yeah, and then Leclerc third responded at the end, but he then hit the wall at the back and ended up stopping around Raskas. So
brilliant. So his home race qualifying went from possible pole to an oh no, not again.
Exactly. He still qualified fourth, but it felt like a missed chance because Ferrari had looked, like we said, so quick the whole weekend. Q1 also had a red flag when Bortoletto hit the barriers at the Nouvelle chicane. That ended his qualifying early, and he didn't take part in Q2.
Okay, so who were the big exits in Q1?
So out of Q1, you lost Ocon, Perez, Behrman, Bottas, Alonso, and obviously Stropp.
So both Aston Martins out in Q1 then?
Yeah, not a good Saturday for them. Because we said in the last podcast, we said, we think Aston Martin might do well because it's got a newie chassis, but the engine's not good. They haven't. It's just terrible. So then on to Q2, Verstappen went fastest late on. Both Williams cars missed out on Q3 with Albon 11th and Hulkenberg and Sainz 12th. Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Lindblad, and Bortoletto were also out.
Okay, so heading into the race then, you've got Kimi on pole with Verstappen beside him. And then the two Ferraris behind, with McLaren only managing 7th and 8th.
Yeah, exactly. The stage was now set.
Okay. And then race day arrived, and the first major shock happened immediately.
Yeah, Verstappen.
Yeah, so lights out, Kimi gets away cleanly, but then Verstappen's Red Bull basically fails to launch. His car appeared to go into anti-stall, and the entire grid just zoomed past him.
Yeah, that must have been one of the worst feelings in racing. You're P2 at Monaco, the lights go out, and suddenly you're a traffic cone.
Exactly, yeah. He managed to get the engine going, limped it back round to the pits and retired it.
Yeah, I think we've also got to say how lucky he was not to get smashed into at Monaco because it's very tight. So lap one retirement at Monaco from the front row, that is pretty brutal for him, and it's not going to help him wanting to stay in the sport when things like that happen.
It's not, no, but it did completely change the race. So Hamilton and Leclerc, not Hamilton Eclairs, thinking of cream cakes.
Bakery.
Hamilton and Leclerc obviously got promoted into second and third. And then Verstappen's chance at a podium was obviously instantly gone. So the opening lap was mostly clean apart from Verstappen's problem, but there were signs of trouble elsewhere. So Behrman came in for a new front wing quite early on, which suggested he'd had some contact.
Yeah, at Monaco, the front wing is basically the car saying, I've met the wall or another car, and it wasn't pleasant.
Exactly, yeah. He also later retired, joining Verstappen and Bottas, who had brake problems.
So we're already losing cars, standard Monaco.
Yeah, so Bottas had some issues in, was it practice or qualifying, where his brakes set on fire?
Yeah, his brakes caught fire early on, and it was the same issue, I think.
Yeah, so at the front, though, Kimi starts building a lead, and by lap 26, he's more than 10 seconds clear.
Yeah, that's massive at Monaco.
It is, and he looked totally in control.
So while everyone else was in Monaco traffic, basically a Monaco traffic jam, Anthony was basically on a Sunday drive just out the front.
Yeah, behind him, Lewis and Leclerc were running second and third still, but the battle behind them really did become interesting.
Yeah. But shall we talk about Hadjar, Russell and Gasly? Because IG's Hadjar was having car issues, but still holding position at this point.
Yeah, but Russell was stuck behind him, though. Yeah,
Russell felt he had more pace if he was in clear air, but this is Monaco. Having more pace doesn't really matter. You can't overtake.
No, and that's kind of Monaco wrapped up in one sentence.
Yeah, and Russell was right up behind Hadjar, especially through the places like the Novo chicane, but he couldn't find a way past.
No, and he was basically shouting, I'm faster, and Monaco's replying, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, exactly, basically. Yeah, pretty much.
But Hadjar deserves credit here, because he had the issues for quite a while and managed to defend still, which at Monaco isn't easy.
Very true, and that becomes part of our podium story later on.
Yeah. Pit stops and a bit of the penalty chaos. This is where it all kind of began. So Lewis made his first stop around lap 29, and Ferrari pulled off a really quick 2.1 second start.
It was quick, yeah. But the pit lane became one of the biggest stories of the race. There was multiple pit lane speed penalties, and this had a massive impact on the final result.
Yeah, I mean, how does that even happen?
So I'll explain more later on. But drivers have a pit limiter, but the speed is monitored very precisely. At Monaco, with the pit entry and the timing lines, tiny margins can still trigger penalties. It's a speed limiter. It's not a speed reducer. It's a bit like the speed limit on your car. You have to get to that speed, and then it won't let you go above that speed. Right. So it wasn't people flying through the pit lane like Mario Kart then? We're talking very small overspeeds, but in F1, it still counts.
Okay. And then kind of came another major moment for McLaren. Lando retires.
Yeah, again, not what they need on this weekend. We all know what they're celebrating.
Yeah, so he lost most of FP2 with what looked like to be power issues, and then suffered more problems in the race and retired.
It was a painful weekend for McLaren again.
It was. It meant to be a celebratory weekend, and it really took a hit. Oscar was still running, though. But yeah, Lando out. No points for the first time this season for him.
That's kind of the anniversary where someone forgets the cake, drops the balloons, and then the venue catches fire.
Pretty dramatic, but yeah. And then with about 20 laps to go, the race kind of exploded into chaos.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so Stroll crashes at the final corner, and that brings out a safety car.
Yeah, at Monaco, that changes everything. Antonelli's miles ahead at this point, so he's now, for goodness sake.
At one point, I saw him 1 minute, 4 seconds ahead. It lapped everybody but the top 3 or 4.
3, yeah. Something crazy.
Yeah. So lots of drivers use that opportunity to pit again, because under the safety car, you can take a second stop without really losing much time.
Yeah, and for anybody with penalties, that was a chance to serve them.
Exactly. So Lewis and Oscar both served time penalties during that phase.
Smart.
But for Ferrari, it also caused problems because Hamilton stopped first, had to serve his penalty, and Leclerc's waited, double stacked up, waiting for him to move.
We were even talking about it just then. We said they need to swap those cars because of the penalty. They can't double stack them because one of them is going to have to. You can't. Obviously, we know that they can't touch the car for however long, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever the penalty is. And that's just Ferrari. You know, they didn't swap them. So
yeah. And then what happened once the race restarted?
Well, then the race restarted briefly.
Briefly?
Very briefly.
Right.
Leclerc then crashed in the same corner as Stroll. I don't think he'd even got around to the main straight to start the restart.
Yeah, well, that's pretty heartbreaking.
It brought out another safety car and then the red flag because the track needed inspecting due to they thought the tarmac was breaking up and that was the reason the cars were going off. After speaking to the drivers, it turns out one had brake failure. I can't remember what, but it wasn't the asphalt that was the problem. So, but it was breaking up. We could see it on the screens. So
yeah, so it went from controlled chaos to full chaos.
Exactly. Leclerc was not happy on the radio either, saying he wouldn't take the blame for this one. Actually, he said he wouldn't take the blame for this one.
Correct, yeah.
So,
yeah. Sounded pretty much like a man who's had enough of Monaco doing Monaco things to him.
Pretty much. It's his home race. You can understand the heartbreak and everything.
Yeah, and then after the red flag, the race resumed behind the safety car and then went to a standing start.
Because apparently the race hadn't been stressful enough for everybody.
Antonelli
needs a bit of stress though. Yeah, apart from Kim. But yeah, he needs a bit of stress now.
My favourite bit of the weekend is how everybody's team radio was manic with all these comms, everything. Meanwhile, Bono's just going, "You're right there, Kimi. Yeah, want to just ease off a little bit. You kind of don't need to go so fast.
We don't need those fastest laps."
But he absolutely nailed the start again.
He did.
And kept the lead from Lewis.
And that's impressive. First Monaco pole, chaotic race, red flag, restart pressure, and he still handles it.
Yeah, but meanwhile, behind, the podium battle gets a bit messy. Hadjar dropped behind, so trying to remember who it was. Hadjar dropped behind Russell and Gasly and was then investigated after the race for an alleged red flag infringement.
Yeah, so at that point, nobody really knew who was on the podium.
Pretty much, because Russell had penalties, Gasly had penalties, Hadjar had an investigation, and it was kind of less final classification and more pending legal review.
Exactly, yeah. And then we had some Sainz chaos as well in the mix.
Yeah, his race completely unravelled after the restart.
Yeah, the hairpin. Nico Hulkenberg.
We'll go back to
2006. Yeah. So Nico Hulkenberg tagged Sainz and sent him into the wall.
Yeah, and then he had another incident involving Colapinto just before the tunnel, which span him round and caused him to then retire.
Yeah, so Sainz got hit then tagged again, and then retired.
Yeah, pretty horrible end to his race.
Yeah, but not as horrible as Russell's race, really.
No, see, he had to serve a drive-through penalty for failing to serve his original penalty.
Yeah, this was... It's the most painful, but also it was, again, miscommunication with Mercedes. It was just a silly... He didn't need it.
No, and there was a lot of back and forth between him and the team saying, have I served it or have I not?
Yeah.
Because he thought he'd been in the pit long enough to serve it, but the team had touched the car. So
that's it. I think that was just Russell trying to... He was talking to the FIA at that point, going, I've been in the pits this long, please. But the rule is very simple. Yeah. You come in, if you touch the car, you haven't served the penalty. And you can see the left-hand guys just start, and the right-hand guys are like, but they're told, and this is how they work it, you stop unless you hear a noise. And as soon as you hear a noise, it's all out the window. You just get everything done then, and you deal with it afterwards, rather than just waiting while everything's done and you're stood there because you're bearing the penalty. As soon as you hear a little noise, you crack on and you change the tyres or do whatever you need to do. So yeah.
Okay. So what kind of happened? What was the final result?
So at the front, Antonelli crossed the line to win the Monaco Grand Prix.
Massive.
Pretty massive. 5 races in a row.
Yeah.
Huge. He won from pole, took fastest lap, and extended his championship, lead.
Yeah, pretty statement win then.
Yeah, Hamilton fastest. Hamilton finished second for Ferrari, and Hadjar was eventually confirmed in third.
Yeah, so you've got Kimi, Lewis, Hadjar, top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hadjar keeping that podium after everything is a massive result as well.
Absolutely. Piastri finished from 4th for McLaren, Lawson 5th, Lindblad 6th, Gasly 7th after penalties, Albon 8th, Ocon 9th, and Alonso getting their inherited 10th and getting their first points for Aston.
Yeah. So they both go out in Q1, but managed to scrape a point in the main race.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Hadjar's investigation, because we haven't really mentioned it, and I didn't notice this at first, but the reason Hadjar's third place was kind of a bit contentious was because he was being investigated and there was no further action by the FIA. The reason was, during the red flag stop, the team started messing with the car. And as soon as they were told you shouldn't be doing that, they reverted everything they'd done back to how it was. And that's why the FIA went, okay, fine, no further action. Because they didn't change anything. They reverted everything back. So that's why he was being investigated.
Fair enough.
But one of the biggest post-race stories is Gasly.
Yeah, because he thought he had a podium.
He did. He crossed the line in what was P3 once Russell served his drive-through, which dropped him all the way back down the grid. But Gasly got 2 5-second penalties for pit lane speeding. Yeah,
it was just 10 seconds, obviously, but yeah, it's a nightmare for him.
Yeah, heartbreaking, which dropped him down to 7th.
Pretty brutal, really.
Clearly heartbroken, though, because he crossed the line in P3, like pumping his fist, celebrating, and then had it all taken away.
And Alpine have requested a right of review, haven't they, for that?
They have, yeah. They want the FIA to review the penalties for the pit lane speeding.
I mean, you can understand why, but as we've heard from at least 2 of the people who were speeding, McLaren in particular, when they went and spoke to them, and McLaren said, we've looked at the data, we were speeding.
Yeah, and so since the race is finished, the FIA have said, we're not investigating anything anymore. We have looked, and our data is correct.
Yeah.
So, but we'll I think you're going to explain in a minute.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
Why we were getting those pit lanes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Perez and Cadillac though losing their first point.
Yeah, it's a disaster really.
Yeah, Perez originally looked to have scored their first point.
I mean, that would have been huge for Cadillac.
It would, but he received a post-race 10-second penalty for a false start after the red flag restart, which dropped him all the way to the back of the classified runners.
Basically, they had it and then they didn't. It's just another Monaco thing, isn't it? So
exactly.
It's painful, but it's like being handed a birthday present and then somebody going, actually, that's not yours.
Yeah. So, go on then, tell us about this pit lane speeding.
So, the pit lane speeding deserves its own little bit because it did shape the race.
Yeah. I think there was 5 penalties for it in the end. 4.
Yeah.
Because obviously Gasly got hit twice, and then Piastri, Lewis, and George got them as well.
Yeah, so several drivers are caught out. The key thing is that the pit lane speed limits are measured by a timing system, not guesswork. Drivers hit the limiter before they hit the line. But if the car is still over the limit at the measurement point, even by the tiny amount, it's a penalty.
So basically the podiums were decided by tiny speed margins.
Exactly. And the margins were that tiny that they were being penalised for being like 0.1 kph over the limit.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. But let me try and explain it a bit more for you. So basically, obviously, Cadillac, so you have the line and then you have line markers down the track, or down the pit lane, which measure your earliest arrival time. A bit like when they put a V8 BSC on. Or for people who don't know about that, average speed cameras on a motorway. And because they've added a new garage in Cadillac, a new team, which, depending where you are finishing the Constructors' Championship, depending what advantage you want. So in Monaco, you get the furthest garage at the end. Some tracks you might have the first garage, some tracks you might have the end garage, but you'll always have the first or the end, and then it rolls out from where you finish in the Constructors' Championship. And what they do, so they've moved the line a little bit. So drivers were coming in and cutting the corner. Still hitting the line, and it's absolutely legal, but because you're cutting the corner, you're arriving, and so say I'm here and you're there. If I cut it, I'm going to arrive at this point quicker than you arrive at this point.
Right.
So the drivers that were cutting the point, and that's why there was such tiny margins, they were arriving at the next timing line before, because they cut the corner. The drivers that weren't obviously arrived there when they should arrive there.
Okay.
So you could say there was a slight advantage gained. Obviously, 0.1 kph is still an advantage. When we're talking about 2.1 second stops, it is an advantage. You can go a little way in, 0.1 of a kilometre. So that's basically, in a nutshell, is if they didn't cut the corners, and it's like Martin Brundle always says, well, if there were walls everywhere, they wouldn't be going over track limits. It's only because they can that they do. So it's really their own fault. If they didn't cut the corner, nobody would have had a speeding penalty.
Right, okay.
And, that's it.
That makes it a little bit more understandable. So Monaco ended up being a bit more chaotic than expected.
Which is impressive, because usually Monaco is just 76 laps of follow the leader and complain about dirty air. So.
Yeah, well, this time we've had Kimi pole and win, Verstappen retiring lap 1, Lando retiring on their 1000th race weekend, Leclerc crashing out at home, Stroll crashing, Sainz getting caught up in multiple incidents, pit lane speeding penalties, Russell's drive-through, Gasly's heartbreak, and if I can catch my breath, Hadjar's podium investigation, and Cadillac losing their first point.
So Monaco didn't give us overtaking, but he did give us everything else.
He did, yeah, exactly.
And Antonelli walks away looking like the real deal, and George not even second in the championship now.
No, Lewis now is. But Kimi walks away with pole, win, fastest lap. He's controlled the whole race. He handled the pressure. He's now matched Lewis's 5 races in a row record, and he did it all at Monaco.
It's not just a win. This is now a statement.
It really is. I think now you've kind of got to say, unless he really messes it up, this has got to be his season, surely.
You would like to think so. I mean, we've lost 2 races off the calendar. They might go back in later in the season. I can't really see it. But I think it's kind of it's early, but it's kind of, is it his to lose now?
Yeah.
We're coming up on some races. I think Hamilton may win the British Grand Prix.
Okay.
Very quick round there. So that'll be one that I think Mercedes probably struggle at. It's definitely his to lose now. So, you know, it's going to be an exciting season.
Okay. Well, with that all said, that's it for this week's episode.
And if you've enjoyed the show, please make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, you can also find us on TikTok and YouTube by searching Under the Visor podcast.
And let us know what you made of Monaco. Was Antonelli's win driver of the season so far, or did Gasly deserve that podium?
Yeah, and then we'll be back next week because we've got another race weekend coming up. Barcelona. So yeah,
so we will see.
Barcelona.
Yeah, I'm just ending it now.
All right, bye then.
No, we will see you next weekend.
Yes, we will.
Barcelona. Yeah, we hope you all enjoyed it. And like I say, follow us wherever you are and tell us if we're wrong or you think we're wrong. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
See ya.